All right, welcome back to Base Christian History. I'm your host, Pastor Matt Littlefield, and tonight we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day. I've got a special guest with us tonight, Simon Camilleri. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yep, Camilleri.
Awesome. So I'll get Simon to introduce himself in a moment, but if you're signing in here for the first time, as I said, my name is Pastor Matt Littlefield, and I do this channel so I can advertise my books. My latest book here, Like a Roaring Lion, you can check out on Amazon or Lock Press if you're in Australia. And if you want to follow my writings, I've got younggospelminister.blogspot.com and Rev Matt's writings on Substack. And if you want to see my full written review of this movie, I put it up this afternoon. You can check that out on my Substack and my blog. But with no further ado, I might just turn to Simon here and see if you could just introduce yourself, Simon.
Hi, everyone. Yep, Simon here. I'm in lovely freezing Melbourne at the moment. And I'm married to Kat, and I've got two wonderful kids, Peter and Dorothy. And I do a bunch of things, but I love writing books myself, children's books mostly, and helping people get into the Bible, understand the gospel, and read the Bible well at church. So that's one of my passions that I love training people in. So, yeah.
Awesome. Kids' books are great. I was actually talking to someone yesterday who's got some kids' books planned. Can you give us a title of a couple of your kids' books? Are they published yet, or are they on the way?
They are. So I wrote, coming up to 10 years ago, I wrote When Santa Learned the Gospel.
Cool.
And then a few years back, I published Wow, God, Thank You, Sorry, Please, A Kid's Guide to Prayer. And then the year later, I published Read, Think, Pray to, A Kid's Guide to Reading the Bible. And at the moment, I'm in the middle of working on a book called In God's Image, A Kid's Guide to Being Human. So teaching kids about what does it mean to be made in God's image, and the theme of God's image broken and then restored through Christ. I bit off way more than I can chew. It's a big, big but aimed at writing it for kids and sharing the gospel through that. And so I love taking big ideas and big concepts and trying to make them accessible for kids or adults. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you illustrate them yourself, or does somebody else illustrate them?
I've got a graphic design sort of eye, and I can sketch, which really helps me imagine, but I am very happy to work with amazing illustrators. So for this book and the last couple of books, I've worked with another Melbourne guy called Dominic On, who's just fantastic. And he's a bit of a perfectionist like me, and we'll go back and forward and keep refining the books. And because we're in the same town, we can catch up, and it's easy. We don't have to worry about time frame, time periods of being in different countries or things like that. So that's really, really wonderful. I wish I could be as good as him, but I guess I've worked on words over the years, and he's worked on images, and then we come together and hopefully produce something really good.
As Chuck Dixon says, every good writer is only as good as his illustrator. Do you know who Chuck Dixon is?
Chuck Dixon? Awesome. No.
Oh, no. So Chuck Dixon is a comic book writer. He invented the character Bane. He wrote Punisher. He wrote Batman. He's written dozens of books. He's recently put out some. Actually, a movie came out earlier this year. Was it with Jason Statham called Working Class Man or Working Man? Did you? Yeah, that was actually.
Was that based on a graphic novel? Was it?
It's actually based on a series of novels called Levon or something like that, written by Chuck Dixon. And so he was working in the background. I believe Sylvester Stallone was involved maybe in production with that. In fact, Chuck Dixon wrote a comic book for Sylvester Stallone on Samuel years ago, which I need to get a copy of.
Wow.
The guy's a believer. He's a Christian. He actually has a YouTube channel. I didn't intend to plug Chuck Dixon tonight, but if you want to check it out, he's got a YouTube channel. Chuck Dixon Does Comics. He's got you can watch, you can send in questions, but like he said, he says the same as you. He focuses on the words. He said he tried illustrating, but that wasn't his thing. He's good at writing, and he can write prolifically. Like, he's written, I don't know, he must have written thousands of comics, dozens of books. So focusing on what you're good at is wise.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can do so much with imagery. Like tonight we're talking about a movie, and I write children's books and with comic books and everything like that, using imagery to communicate something that marriages with the words is something great. And definitely the movie we're talking about tonight was visually a stunning film as well. So yeah,
well, let's get into it. Let's talk about the movie. We can talk about other stuff here tonight, but we advertise this as a review of Spider-Man Brand New Day. So let's talk about it. Just first, initially, what were your initial thoughts of the movie? What did you go in expecting? Were your expectations met? What did you think?
I had heard it was really good. I try not to, have any spoilers and things like that, but it was really hard because there was so much chatter about the movie. So first of all, we have to establish for people watching is if we're going to talk about this movie, are we going? This is not a spoiler-free review, or is this for people who know the film?
That's actually a really good point. I say we just talk spoilers. In my review today, I did it partial non-spoiler, partial spoiler. I let people know when spoilers were coming up. So we're going to do a spoiler review because
spoiler alert.
This movie's got it. We're just going to talk about the movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see the movie, then come back and watch this video and share it with your friends. If you have seen it, jump in. Let us know what you think in the comments. But I just say we do with spoilers. That way we can talk about it in more depth.
Yeah, so I really liked it. I knew some of the things that I expected was that it had some fantastic sort of the fight sequences and things were very much based on the new like PlayStation Spider-Man games. I knew that going in, and that's one of the few I've played, and I play it with my kids too. And it's like, and visually it's really, really cool. And there was heaps in there for people who like those games. It didn't labor it too much, but it just had that tone and camera shots and things spinning around, and it was very, beautifully done. Tom Holland's got a dance background and does a lot of his own stunts, so I presume a lot of that stuff, if it wasn't CGI, it was a lot of the close quarters leaping around and stuff like that he would have done himself. So that was nice and impressive. But one thing I didn't expect is how much the movie was really a character movie. Like it was almost a drama, like, not an action movie. It was more his journey and his emotions, and especially, Tom Holland, they say he's probably one of his best performances, and I'd agree. He, beautifully portrayed this sort of struggling, tortured, growing in maturity character, grappling with really big things. The last film ends with him making this ultimate sacrifice of saying the only way to sort of save the world and save all my friends and, prevent the rift and all these sort of things that were happening, was for everyone to forget Peter Parker. And he bears the cost of that in order to save the world. So there's a beautiful sort of gospel theme there of him, totally giving up his whole self to to rescue the world, to protect the world. And then this is sort of the aftermath of that, of living and serving and being a superhero, being a popular superhero too. There's no demonizing of Spider-Man like there is in some of the other stories of Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man, but Peter Parker is lonely and longing for his friends and his girlfriend that he lost and all those sort of things. And they did that so well. That journey of him grappling with that was totally the heart of this film and made the most interesting things. In fact, the story, the plot, I didn't find overly interesting. I sort of guessed, here's spoiler, I guessed that it was going to be Jean Grey. I'd heard that they were trying to incorporate the X-Men into the MCU, and so I sort of guessed that they were doing that. And then when they were saying, "Oh, here's this thing that could suppress your mutations," I'm like, "Oh, that's just like X-Men 3." I'm old enough to remember X-Men 3 and when they were bringing all those sort of suppression of mutations and that. And so when those things came in, I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is all setting up for a bigger thing they're going to bring in." But that actually wasn't the heart of it wasn't hanging on those elements. So even if I had a bit of like, that didn't surprise me as much as I hope it would, that wasn't what gripped me in the film. Like, there was a few scenes that actually really brought up memories of my own past traumas and things like that. I've had discussions with my wife about things that happened in my past that this film brought up for me. So it's like, there's some real meat in there, which was great.
Yeah, there was real meaning. I mean, No Way Home, I love that movie. It was a good movie. Like, I've watched it a couple of times. I don't think it's the best Spider-Man movie. I'll get to what I think the best Spider-Man movie is at some point in this review. But I still loved it, and I loved it because it used nostalgia the way you're supposed to use nostalgia. Like, some movies use nostalgia, and they just kind of throw stuff in your face that you're supposed to like. You're like, like the way they used, the Millennium Falcon in The Force Awakens. I didn't think was that great. It wasn't that interesting. Like, it wasn't really part of the story. It's just like, we have the Millennium Falcon. Whereas in No Way Home, they used nostalgia as an intricate part of the story, and the way that they honored the previous Spider-Man, including Tobey Maguire. And like you said, the way that he sacrifices everything. Like, there really are only two hero stories, and they're both gospel stories. One is the sacrifice, which is the heart of what Jesus did on the cross, and the other one is rescuing the bride, which is what he's going to do. And they're the two hero stories. And basically every hero story has to have either one or the other or both to be a good story. And that's just the way it is. And so that's what he does in that movie. He sacrifices everything. And when they did that, a part of me kind of cheered, because I just have not been a fan of Zendaya's MJ from the start. I just never found it good. To be fair, Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane wasn't the nicest person either. I'm not, not like she was amazing. And that was part of the story. She's supposed to be a foil for it. And I thought Ned was, it wasn't terrible, but he was just kind of like the goofy hang around guy. And so I was like, okay, cool. The way they've finished that movie, they can go on with different storylines, new characters, new friends. But then when I saw that in this movie they're going to use them, I was like, I don't know if this is the best way. But I was completely wrong. The way that they use that relationship, like you said, to create that real emotional, character-driven story, I just thought was brilliant. It was simple. It was easy. I'll be honest, it was the easier route. Like, trying to create that kind of emotion, that kind of draw with new characters would have been a lot harder. But just because it was the easiest route doesn't mean it was wrong. It was actually really clever. And I agree with you. There was times when I'm watching this movie, I actually turned to my wife and I said, so I watched it with my wife and my 3 kids. I said to her, wow, there's actually down periods of this movie where you actually get to see the characters do stuff.
That's rare, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's so rare. And like, there have been other comic book movies that did that, but some of the other comic book movies that do that, they're also dreary and cynical. And it's like the heroes have to feel bad, but this wasn't like that. He's not like feeling bad about being Spider-Man. He's just longing for his loved ones. Yeah. And that's you jump in.
The other thing that I thought I've always liked Zendaya's MJ. I didn't mind the quirky, sassy sort of their relationship. I don't really like her in other movies, but I haven't minded her as MJ. The thing that really made this even more potent is the fact that in real life they're together, that they're actually married. And so elements of, like, when she said, "Is there a Mrs. Spider-Man?" to him, and he sort of laughs and going like, in real life, she's Mrs. Spider-Man. Like, and so there was that. As much as that wasn't like they didn't try to go wink, wink, but I think it just added an element of cross layers. And I actually said to my wife, I go, if they ever get divorced, like that ruins this whole. Like, imagine in real life if they hated each other, it wouldn't work as well. Like, there's something about the fact that actually, even with his best friend, who doesn't remember him in this, in real life, they're all actually quite close and they all get along and they have good banter and that sort of stuff. So that I saw that chemistry plays well and just and did add a depth. And the most amazing scenes or heartbreaking scenes are two scenes of just, for me at least, two scenes with Spider-Man and or Peter Parker and
Can I guess the scenes? Can I guess the scenes?
Well, that's right? Obvious, because that just ripped everyone's heart out. Right, so
I'd say the first one. The first one is when like Jean Grey takes control of Spider-Man and tricks him on the top of the building, and they actually used what looked like a recreation of one of the sets from Spider-Man 1 and 2, which to me added depth to it. Is that the first one?
That is totally the first. That one, just, that was just like acted brilliantly, written brilliantly, directed brilliantly, because you were exactly, especially because I was like guessing the plot. So to have a scene that actually fooled me but then reveals to you what it's doing at the exact beats that it wants to. And so you're starting to realize, and then he's so there's all this beautiful subtext in the scene. It's performed brilliantly. And the fact that they kiss and there's no, sometimes if you think, oh, these actors kissing, but you go, they're husband and wife, so isn't that beautiful? And so they're like, and they're together, and his dream, it's restored, and then she goes, actually, I'm not, and rips his heart out, and then goes to kill MJ, like throws her, she's in control of MJ, and so the villain throws her off off the building, and he saves her and everything. But so that was great. That really sort of was an amazing scene, and I'd say that's equal to the other amazing scene in the Tom Holland Spider verse outside of this movie is in the first one. Is it Homecoming? The scene in the car with Michael Keaton as Vulture when he turns and who's MJ's father. And he turns to him and he realizes he's Spider-Man. That interaction, that it was just fantastic. So this is another brilliant scene with those characters. And what do you think my second one is?
Well, I would guess the second one is when they're in the Punisher's boat and she says, "I don't love you." After she finds the letter, "Did you mean me to find this?" Like, I just thought the look on his face and the way they delivered that. Like, and look, that was both good storytelling for the movie, but it was also clever serial storytelling, because it's clear from this movie, and I think it's already made over $1 billion. So it's getting a sequel. It's getting 2 sequels. These are successful. Like, that's insane. Like, $900 and something million. Somebody said that to me on Sunday, that it's made over 800 million so far. I said, "Are you sure?" And I looked it up online, and the reports I found were like 700. I'm like, that's still crazy, but they were just way underestimated. He ended up being right. But so we're getting a sequel. But that was a good storyline in the story, because they don't want to make it too easy for him to reverse, because that sacrifice that he made in No Way Home actually means
if it's all reversed. I hate movies where you've worked so hard for something in one, then the next movie just sort of glosses over it or reverses it, or the character he's fallen in love with is just dies in between the next film and isn't there, or I'm
So we can talk about Aliens and Aliens 3 another
I was
time.
mate, thank you. I was exactly about to say Aliens 3. Mate, come on. How lazy in the opening credits you just undo the whole film. But even like ones where Indiana Jones, where where a character is he fights for the girl and then it's just a different girl or something like that, or just ones where there's just not that continuity. I thought I was really glad for this, that it didn't just make it easy for him, and it also hit hard, because that's true. Like that, the idea, the romantic idea that if you just had one-on-one time with that relationship that's lost, that it all would all be solved. I think there's a lot of people who feel that, and so I think there's I thought that was brilliantly done. How she just goes, the spell worked. It's not like Snow White where you just kiss and then suddenly she wakes up and goes, they had played a little bit with that right at the end with the friend, where there's like muscle memory still of their handshake.
Yeah, that was good. That was good, because it left it hanging. It's a bit like a Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels ending. Which, have you seen that movie?
And it left it on an up note, right? That it wasn't all lost, that there could be redemption in that. But I thought it was really good and real that it wasn't all just an easy restore. Oh yeah, I remember you. Oh yeah, I do love you. She goes, I don't remember you. I don't love you. And those words cut really deep. And the actual moment that hit me the most was when he was, because then she leaves, and then there's a little gag where she goes, actually, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I was brought here by you. Can you drive me home, sort of thing? Can you swing me home? And so there's this scene that just was so powerful, where he's carrying her home, like he's embracing the one that he loves, to take her home because she said no to him. And so he's still serving her, even in her rejection of him. That love, he's not embittered, he's not trying to get her back. And I, like, as a little bit of, I don't have to go into it in detail, but I've had a failed marriage and I've gone through a divorce many years ago. And I've walked with others who have gone through divorces and gone through estranged marriages where relationships are breaking up, and you just long for restoration. And I've seen people heartbroken, and that on this side of heaven, at least, there's brokenness that can't be unbroken sometimes, tragically. And sometimes people just go no to restoration. Yep. And in this, it's magical reasons, right? It's because of a wizard spell, right? But it still sort of really connects with real people's experience of where you can say, you're saying that to someone you love in this intimate moment, and they just go no. And then you have to choose, how do you relate to that person? And do you still show love? Do you still show kindness? And it's such a great reflection of how the character of Peter Parker, that he still, even though she says it really definitively, he still shows her kindness and serving. And so I just thought there's a whole gospel, probably, picture in that of how we treat God, and how sometimes, even in our lostness, even if in our estrangement from God shows us kindness, and God, seeks to rescue us, and all those sort of things. So that was really powerful for me.
Yeah, I can see why that would hit so powerfully for someone who's gone through what you've gone through. But even just I mean, I haven't gone through what you've gone through. I haven't had a marriage fail, but I have had relationships fail before I was married. But also, there's also another layer in there that there's that element of, like, Spider-Man is the high character Delta, which is just, the ordinary but high character guy who just wants to do his best for everyone around him and doesn't necessarily get what he deserves for having done it. He doesn't get the rewards that he deserves. He doesn't get the accolade that he deserves. He's kind of like everyone loves Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man, but Peter Parker's not Spider-Man. I mean, he is, but he's not in his day-to-day life. So for Spider-Man, like his friend Ned, I just want to find Spider-Man so I can thank him for rescuing me all those times. And Peter Parker just gives that like bittersweet smile, like it's like he wants to say thank you right there, but he just smiles at him. And like that idea, there are a lot of men in our culture who would relate to that. There's the woman that they love, the woman that they serve, who might necessarily not be interested in him or even notice him. That is it. And I think that's one of the reasons. Like, I was kind of thinking about this the other day, because Spider-Man is not my favorite superhero. My favorite superhero is Superman, and my next favorite is Batman. And Spider-Man is actually my favorite superhero movie is Spider-Man 2. That's my favorite. We can talk about why at some point.
Yeah.
That is my favorite superhero movie. But just overall, I love the idea of who Superman is and what Batman does. And I've always kind of wrestled with, why is Spider-Man so successful? But it really just comes down to something really simple. So many guys have gone through what he's gone through, but they haven't had the powers to vindicate them.
Yep.
Like, in this movie.
Sorry. Well, Superman is this like ideal hero, right? Comes from another planet, and he comes and he takes on ideals, and he, truth, justice, and the American way sort of thing. And he has these incredible powers that are almost his Superman, right? He's almost indestructible. He's got his weakness, but he's sort of this very iconic. And rightly, some movies have portrayed him as like a Christ figure, right? Whereas Spider-Man is very much what's the great man who wrote Spider-Man?
Stan Lee and Kirby.
Stan Lee, right? I was watching an interview with him, and he was talking about the creation of Spider-Man, and he wanted him to be exactly the opposite. He didn't want him to be super handsome. He wanted him to be awkward. He wanted him to be clumsy. He wanted him to be the average kid who would be buying the comic books. He was the first sort of, I think, teenager superhero, and going through the average things of life. He wanted him not to be able to get all the girls and all that sort of stuff. So if Superman sort of represents the Christ type figure, Spider-Man represents the average Joe, the average human and then his philosophy is that he's given power and he has to choose what to do with that power and grapple with that. So he's a normal person who's given power, as opposed to Superman, who just has power by the merits of being an alien. And so that you get the great line of Spider-Man, which is, with great power comes great responsibility, which is such a good message. Like, it's such an important message, especially in a culture like ours, which has no interest in talking about responsibilities or duties, but is all about rights, right? It's what do I deserve? What should you give me? Not what do I owe you? What is my duty to you as my fellow man? And so that idea, I
was going to say, which is one of the biggest problems in our culture today. I mean, the idea of natural rights or human rights or the rights of the poor, the rights of the citizen, the rights of the family member, that is a biblical concept. It comes from the scripture, but it was always a right which was connected to the social good of the society. It wasn't just I'm going to get what I want out of everything to the exclusion of everything else. And if Spider-Man was like that, he'd be a terror to everyone. And if Superman was like that, it'd be even more frightening. And they've done adaptations of that to try and get that across
Yep.
But exactly right. Spider-Man. I was just watching this movie and just thinking. I was just thinking about guys I know, just different guys that I know in my life, and thinking how I've seen aspects of the way he acts in them.
Mm.
And it's actually it's one of the reasons why I think this movie is doing so well and did so well in the last one, because I think a lot of men would like to think that they would be willing to give up everything for those they loved. I think a lot of men actually think that about themselves, and maybe they get it beaten out of them by the cruelties of life, or they get it taken out of them by giving themselves over to sin or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But what I love about Spider-Man is no matter how much he gets beaten down, he's still like you said, he wants to still serve the woman he loves and take her home. But I love, and then she's like, do you want to come upstairs? And they play some Lego. And like that scene, I gotta say, like, to me, the best scene in a superhero movie, and it's one of the reasons why Spider-Man 2 is my favorite superhero movie. Not just superhero movie, it's actually my favorite movie. Is because that scene, the train scene in that movie, when he saves everybody's lives, and he basically nearly gives up his life to save them. And if you look at the way he
very
just knocked over my own book, but he actually is put into the Christ pose for that scene. Very deliberate. It's very clear symbolism there. But then he falls in, his mask is off, and they're like, he's just a kid. But that scene was powerful. I think the closest any Spider-Man movie has gotten to that is that scene where MJ, Ned, and Peter Parker, are just sitting there playing with Lego, and she draws the picture of them like that. It's very different to that scene from Spider-Man 2, but that's the closest I've seen to them landing that kind of emotional punch.
Yeah.
And like
beautiful.
It wasn't ruined by some kind of little quip afterwards. Like it wasn't made to be. It was actually like enjoy the moment for the characters, but also the viewers. We just got to enjoy them enjoying each other's company. And it's like in that moment, the movie won. That's when Zendaya won me over in this movie. It's like as MJ.
Took her how many movies? Yeah.
I'm still not rushing out to see her back catalog of other stuff. But just in this movie, the way that they built that character development, that story around that relationship. And I love, you see the way that the Punisher, who was great in this movie. I actually love PG-13 Punisher. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see the full-on action Punisher. I love the old Tom Jane Punisher movie and some of the other stuff. I love the old Netflix show, which had the Punisher in it. I love that hardcore action. But I feel like we need a counterweight to the sort of the depravity of Wolverine and Deadpool. And Spider-Man and Punisher are it, and they did it in this movie. Like, just their interplay, the way they interacted together, it was like a buddy cop movie from the 90s, but a good one.
Worked really well, and even the Punisher has his longings for relationship and his loneliness. So they didn't just turn him into he was definitely sort of almost the comic relief at times, and the counterweight to him. But at the same time, they still gave him depth, and they still, his character helped. That he wasn't just like a relief from the story. He actually helped deepen it as well with the idea of being alone, and that was a big theme that we both saw in it as well. Is the idea of, although you make those sacrifices, and it's good that it honored and made the sacrifice noble, but then there's another thing that guys can do, which is think, in order to be the man who dutifully serves his family, he can't have any friends, and if he's struggling in life, he can't share that with anyone, because that's a man doesn't share, and stuff. So it was a good actually counterbalance to that masculine service with strength and responsibility, but not stoic loneliness being a godly masculine trait, which it isn't. Like the idea of doing it all alone and not being in community and not having friends and that sort of stuff is not a godly masculine trait, even though we might be have a propensity to it. So I thought that was a really good theme in the movie too. And
Well, that
yeah,
line where Punisher says to Spider-Man, Spider-Man's like, he won't take the mask off, and he says, "You understand?" He says, "No, kid, you got to understand. This isn't what I want. If I could go out and live with my family, I would be there in a moment." He said, "This isn't freedom for me. This is a sentence."
yeah,
And like he gets across the point that the Punisher's looking at Spider-Man and sees that Spider-Man has this opportunity for this beautiful woman in his life. He's got the freedom because people don't know who he is, and he's loved. He's the good guy. Like the Punisher's kind of an anti-hero. He's done some bad stuff to, so he can't really reveal himself publicly. And like it's actually affecting him. And the fact that the way that they build that friendship with Spider-Man and the Punisher across the movie, and I just love that it was good and it was wholesome, because Hollywood, they do try to sometimes, and look, I love movies. I don't like a lot of modern Hollywood stuff because I feel like they're just recycling stuff and they've lost a bit of creativity. But every now and then they just get back to what they're supposed to do, which is just tell a really good character story and put some explosions around it. Like just give us more of
how
that.
narrow, I love all different types of, I love movies that I hate. Right. I like I'm an artist for almost first and foremost, which is I got to be careful of, but I do appreciate a movie that's doing something clever or trying something, even if it fails, right? But you're right that there's this sense of just good stories, entertainment, and there's something about having a message but not having it feel shoehorned squeezed into the thing, where the whole movie is the message, like does that. That's a real craft to do that well. And like Christian movies often fail at doing that well, right? We shoehorn a Christian message in there sometimes, and I can be very forgiving of that because I agree with the message, right? So I can't fault necessarily people who like progressives who love a certain movie because it shoehorns their message into it, like, because I'd probably do the same, right? But there's something about a movie that does that really well, and I think this movie did it. Like every element served the message, and so you
absolutely.
were feeling like you were force fed it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember saying years ago to some friends in a discussion that Hollywood movies have gotten to Christian movie levels of propaganda. And, and what I was saying there is that, like what Simon just talked about, is some Christian movies, they're just so keen to tell the message that they neglect the story. And there are examples, there are counter examples. Like I've got one up on my wall. It's actually one of my favorite Christian movies I've ever seen. It's the story of Greg Laurie called Jesus Revolution, and it's got Kelsey
cool.
Grammer.
Yeah. I've been keen to see that. I've heard it's good.
Yeah, it's just a good story. And you might not even, as a Christian out there, you might not even agree 100% necessarily with the theology of some of the Christians presented in the movie. But the point of this movie is not to convince you about the theology. The point of this movie is to tell you the story of how Greg Laurie went from what he was to what he became. But also it gives you the story of the mentor who helped him to become that. And that it's like sort of like broken down, almost wanting to give up, but faithful pastor who's kind of feeling burnt out in ministry, and how God brings his story back to life. It's just a good story. And when you tell a good story, you don't even really need to preach, because you can work it in. I think this might be a little bit unfair. Maybe some C.S. Lewis fans out there will be a bit insulted by this. So you feel free, anyone, to write in the comments why I'm wrong, or maybe even Simon will disagree. I don't know. But I kind of feel it's like the difference between Lewis and Tolkien. Tolkien gets across the gospel message. Like no man can destroy the enemy. No man can do it. No man has the power. Well, it has to be the Hobbit. And even the Hobbit fails at the end. And at the end, evil destroys itself. But he gets across the idea of like sacrifice, sin, the greatest sacrifice, brother. He gets across all this without preaching. Even though there's moments where Gandalf or maybe Sam or someone will give like a powerful line, it makes sense in the moment. Whereas C.S. Lewis, who was a good storyteller and definitely one of the greats, but still his he doesn't make it very subtle at all. Like Aslan laying down his life, using the ancient magic to defeat the evil magic, like and defeating the White Witch. It's a great story, and it's probably more kid level, so it's not needing to be as woven in. And also, C.S. Lewis wrote a lot more as stories than Tolkien. So Tolkien kind of spent his whole time creating this one world, this one overarching story. So he put more time into it. But I kind of always thought they kind of typified this a little bit. And Hollywood kind of fell into that for a while. And it became frustrating. Like every movie felt like some kind of progressive message, some kind of nonsense. And there's probably even parts of this movie where if you want to, you could interpret them kind of pushing some of that. But it was so downplayed, unless you're really looking for it, you would actually miss it. And that's rare these days. So it almost looks like Hollywood, at least some of them are listening. And they're like, we just have to tell good stories. Otherwise, no one's going to buy our tickets.
Yep. Well, it'll be interesting what they do with X-Men, because X-Men have traditionally been used as a pro, I'll say LGBT, not LGB, right? Not the T necessarily, right? So the idea of you're different genetically. This is back when it was pushed the idea that you're gay or lesbian based on your genetics. You're born that way, right? Which they've sort of moved away from that angle. But X-Men at that time, like in the 90s, was used as like an analogy of there's this ostracized people. There's people who want to suppress their mutation and make them just like us normal people, and so X-Men, like if you see the 90s X-Men movies, it's the late 90s, I think it is,
early 2000s.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, that's right. I think in the second one, there's even the bit where Iceman goes back to his home, to his parents, and reveals that he sort of comes out, and the mum says, have you tried not being a mutant? So that they layer that on, really, think, right? And so it was interesting. This one, a friend of mine asked me with this movie, do you feel like, they had that element in this one of his genetics. So there's an aspect of the movie we haven't even talked about, which is Peter Parker himself turning into a bit more spider-like, him genetically changing and him wanting to suppress that. And my friend was going, do you think that's like a pro-gay sort of message? And I said, well, if you think about it, it's actually more of an anti-trans message, because it's saying your genetics are something and you're using something to suppress and the analogy of his changing thing was very much like puberty, like with his web fluid and everything like that, right? And the idea of having a suppressor, like a puberty blocker, suppressing his genetic natural things, where he had to actually come to accept his genetics and understand and learn how to control it, but not suppress it, not pretend that it didn't exist, who he really was genetically. So you could play with all the things, but it'll be interesting when they bring in the X-Men, whether they go back to that sort of trope that they have done in previous X-Men iterations and things. But this movie,
that was ham-fisted in that X-Men movie. I remember that scene now. I'd forgotten that, but I remember it very clearly now that you mentioned it.
It was very ham-fisted. But it was ham-fisted for an audience that wanted things to be ham-fisted in that direction, I think. Like, that's what it was playing to. People going, yeah, you say that to you tell your mum who you really are, sort of culture. So I think, and then we sort of got sick of ham-fisting messages into things so obviously. But it's great to see it plays on the theme, that says its message without needing to make it really on the nose.
No, it's Yeah, it's interesting because there is elements of what you're talking about, which, like your friend who brought up, I can see why he would ask that. But the way that you've explained it, you can look at it that way. But I also thought like the way that they did it was interesting because, and this is getting to what we were talking about before, like he was isolating himself because he gave up everything that he loved. He was isolating himself, and because of this, the beast in him was taking over. And like it's almost like he hadn't fully developed his powers yet. And I actually found it interesting. And I love one of the things I love about this movie, and it's because Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man movie and movie in general. Is this movie clearly honored that movie?
Yeah,
in so many ways. One, it gets a direct mention. There's a direct mention of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, as Spider-Man 2 in this, but also the storyline is a direct sort of inversion copy of that story, whereas he's like wanting to get he loses his powers because he just wants his life back in number 2, whereas in this one his powers are starting to overtake him. And so there's a storyline where because he's so isolated, even like the AI, his AI Evie, the police captain, like in some of the views, like some of those guys like that I watch, you know, they're good reviewers, guys like Critical Drink and others, they kind of, I don't know if he did, but some of them were talking about how they saw like how the police captain, the older woman, was always talking down to him, but I didn't see it that way at all. I just saw it like she's like a concerned grandmother.
Yeah, totally. She was very maternal.
Yeah, she was more like, you got to look after yourself, son. And like when he flips his lid and he's fighting Scorpion and like the beast in him takes over and he nearly kills that cop in the car, like, and she's like, Peter, this is not you. And like this, like I think it's interesting. You mentioned the idea. It's like almost like he's developing, you know, into adulthood from adolescence. You can look at it that way. But also the way I just looked at it is that when you isolate yourself from the world, you become less human. And the inhuman in you can take over. And this is not just if you're an individual. If you're part of a group that just isolates itself from the world. And I know we're online right now, but some people are just online. Their whole life is just online. And I found it fascinating that in this story, Spidey, he's rescuing people, but in his own personality, Peter Parker, he's just sitting on his phone watching his friends. He's living vicariously through social media. And look, I'm not one of those people who's against social media. I use it, you use it. There's great ways you can use it. But if that's where you're living your life, you will not really be the full human you're supposed to be. And like, so you can look at it as though this was the beast in him coming out, or you can look at it as though also, or he's just developing, you know, or I think you can also look at it as though he's capable of being so much more, but he's not going to be able to harness that well if he keeps trying to suppress who he is and just not live a full life. And you see when he sits in that room with MJ and Ned and he's just experiencing that fellowship, he actually is, I think that's one of the maybe 2 times in the whole movie he just looks genuinely happy. And there are so many people in our world today who are isolating themselves, and maybe it's because they were really hurt. Maybe it's because they just come from a unfortunate background. Maybe it's because they have to work so much they just don't have time. Whatever the reason is, there are a lot of young men, particularly in our world today, who are doing what Peter Parker does, and they're just shutting off the world because it's too painful out there. And they're just focusing, maybe they're focusing on their work, they're focusing on, you know, online space, video games. And I'm not against video games. I love video games. I played some of the Spider-Man games. I'm not saying you can't play them, but just if your whole life is just in online space,
virtual,
you're not going to be healthy. And that's kind of how I saw it. Like, and I think that's one of the reasons why this is interesting, because like you said, somebody might be able to look at this and see maybe they're pushing the LGBT thing. You saw that, no, they're actually critiquing the trans. It could be read that way, but I also saw it a different way. And that's the thing. It wasn't an explicit bang you over the head message. And there were different aspects of it which you could look at, which you could learn from. And like some people say, I just want to go watch a superhero movie to shut off. And I get that. I don't mind. If I want to do that, I watch Fast and the Furious. But I also don't mind it when a movie entertains me but also makes me think. I like
well, you can't see. I think like the things like Fast and the Furious, where you can't sustain a length of time. Like, and sure, it's fun to just go, you know, let's watch some monsters and things like that for an hour and a half and just go back to the real world. But I actually thought this movie, instead of telling you what you should do, it gave a lot of fodder for just getting you to reflect on your own life, on how you relate to people, how you isolate. And you're very much right. It's a very masculine trait. There's a lot of women who are isolated in lots of ways too, but it seems to be there's a lot of men who may be surrounded, like he was surrounded by people who adored him. Like he was serving people, he was saving people, he was fighting the villains and everything like that. But no one knew him, and he thought he couldn't connect with anyone. And I think you're right in that his path to actually being able to control the natural aggression that was stirring up in him isn't to shut it off, right? It's to actually connect with human beings. And that's, especially when you like, I've got a 3-year-old son, and he is naturally violent. Like he's naturally destructive and physical, and he challenges himself. But when he's angry, he naturally, even though he sees no violence in his parents towards each other or towards them, he naturally wants to destroy you physically. When he doesn't get his way. And I had to go, this is because I've also got a daughter, and she just didn't have that issue. And I'm like, I've got a son now, and I have to teach him how to handle his aggression, handle his testosterone. And I didn't want to go the world's route, which was to just demonize it, to just go, no, actually, this aggression's bad, full stop, which it isn't. Like you need men who can stand up against villains, and who can fight for the right thing. And so I've started this little line with him, which is, you've got strength, you've got muscles, and therefore they're for helping, not hurting. And so,
exactly right. That's what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah, so we play games of like, I've got, oh no, something's fallen on me. I need someone who's got big muscles to lift it off me. And he'll go, oh, help. And he pretends to move things. Or, I've got this big heavy box. If only I had someone who had big muscles who could help me. And he comes and helps me. And teaching him that actually using your strength to serve those who might be weaker than you is why God's given men masculine strength, and even why he's given them aggression, like for that good purpose. And it's a thing that can be used for evil. And I thought this movie didn't demonize strength, and
it didn't.
But it said you need if you live in isolation, that's when strength gets demonized, turns into a monster.
Absolutely. That's just really well put, Simon. And I love that you're doing that. Like I've got 2 boys. I do the same sort of stuff with them. I actually do boxing with my kids a couple of times a week, and it's just training. We don't spar because they're just kids, but teaching them techniques, teaching them how to protect each other, how to protect their sister, and why to avoid a fight, but why sometimes you can't. You don't have the option. And what do you do in that sort of situation? How do you, I used to do martial arts and boxing when I was younger. So teaching men the importance of strength, act like men and be strong. In 1 Corinthians 16, I believe was a command to the men to use their strength for righteousness. I believe that's what some people like to generalize that command, but I believe there's actually a lot of commands in the Bible referring to the strength of men. And we are stronger than women. Women are the weaker vessel physically. I mean, they might be powerful in other ways, but like men can hurt a woman, but men can also protect. And you teach them. And it's one thing I loved about this movie is maybe I'm going to have to go back and watch the other Tom Holland ones, but one of the things which I didn't super like in a couple of them, is that he didn't really get a chance to save MJ very much. It was more a case of, they'd get into an iffy situation and she'd find some way out of it. Or maybe there's some times where he actually rescued, but I can't really remember them. Whereas in this movie, he has to directly rescue on the roof when Sadie Sink's Jean Grey throws her off the and they actually, and I thought this was really powerful, and I don't know if you saw this in it as well, but I saw they were actually recreating the scene from Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, which they already did in the last film too. They already redeemed that, but then they played on it again. Yep.
Yeah, but they gave Garfield the chance to redeem it in that movie, and that was beautiful when they did that. And Garfield got to save MJ. Anyway,
what's MJ doing?
Tom Holland hadn't had his chance to actually rescue her like that. And so the way that he just captures her and brings her back in safely, like that just encapsulates what the man wants to do when his woman is in trouble, when the woman that he loves, when it's his wife, when it's his girlfriend, when it's his sister or his friend, he just wants to use his strength to help them. And they gave Spider-Man the opportunity to do that. Hang on a sec. Somebody's just saying hi in the comments. Might just say hi back. I'm not sure who Elizabeth is. Although I spelled hello wrong. But yeah, that idea of using your strength well, like they kind of toned the Punisher down a bit, but I don't think they wussified him. They did make him funny, but as you said, they also gave him emotional depth. But he got a chance to actually do some good in this movie, and it just encourages me that Hollywood have kind of put out a string of movies where men get to be heroes, and it's not a bad thing. Like there was a while there where we were kind of moving away from that, or they were going out of their way to mock the male heroes.
Yeah, and I didn't mind strong. Like, gosh, Aliens is a kick-ass film. It's like amazing, right? So, and I want my daughter to see amazing women who are doing, heroic things. She has to be brave every day at school as a Christian at a state school, like, and she has to be brave, right? And so I wanted to be heroic, but when the way they sometimes portrayed, the way you portray a heroic woman is by making all the men dumb or evil. It's just so tired and just so like I'm just over it. I'm just really, whenever I see it in TV shows and stuff like that, where it's just like, oh, come on, just like, are there any good guys in this film other than they're either gay or they're evil or they're idiots, right? And and it's just like they're the only three boxes that you could put men in. Then just some decent decent guys along with the decent women, just like having that balance. So I like that they portrayed Tom Holland in that, Spider-Man in that way. And this movie, I think, had more. Like, I think he has rescued. Spider-Man's often rescued MJ in lots of different scenarios, in lots of different films. But I think in this film, it's the multiple ways he has to sacrifice for her is powerful. So, there's that physical moment where he has to catch her off the building, which they don't make easy, which he falls and has to land on himself to protect her. Even the way they do that scene is a sacrifice for him. Like, it's not just easy for him to save her, but all the other ways in which he emotionally has to, at first he's letting her go and letting her live her life. And then in those moments where she finds the letter, and so he has to confront that. And then she says, I don't love you. And he has to still care for her and be kind to her. So there's lots of just portrayals of sacrifice and responsibility and duty without it being emotionless and cold. So I thought it was a great, lovely portrayal of that.
Yeah. We probably should start wrapping up soon because we've been doing this for an hour and we've both got families. But I did want to talk about one thing in the movie that I didn't like. I didn't think it ruined the movie. But like, I actually kind of mentioned it in my review and I had a bit of fun with it. I tried to have a bit of fun with it. But one thing I didn't like is that Jean Grey, she's basically an absolute terrorist in this movie. And then she's just let off scot-free at the end. And like her whole strategy of trying to find her sister or save her sister is taking over people, but she doesn't take over the one person that she could have just taken over and gone straight into the office and, achieved it. And if they had done that, the movie would have finished in 20 minutes. And people like it's you can pick on that sort of thing, and there is like a little bit of annoyance. But as I mentioned in my review, you can kind of overanalyze movies a little bit, and like it's like Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Without Indiana Jones in that movie, the Nazis cannot find the Ark. So if he had just not been there, they fail. Everything's okay. But at every point of the movie, he makes it easier for them to find the Ark. And then at the end, it doesn't even save the day. They just open the Ark and they all die. So, like, he's completely pointless in that movie. But it's one of the greatest movies of action, adventure movies of all time. We can overanalyze it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Marvel has a bit of a villain problem still. I don't think they've had very good villains. I think their best villain was Michael Keaton in Homecoming.
Oh, you don't think Thanos was one they nailed? I thought that one.
Thanos was okay. Thanos is good. To be fair, no, that's correct.
But you're right. Yeah, Michael Keaton knocked it out of the park.
He just knocks everything out of the park.
I agree. There has been some funny commentary on the Jean Grey, her conversation with Spider-Man at the end, where Spider-Man says to her, "Don't." Like she for some reason, the whole thing she's getting there, she's found is to find her sister. She's done so much damage. Then she's finally got the man who killed her sister. There's all the blades there, and she's for some reason waiting. And then Spider-Man says to her, "Don't do this. You're not a killer." As if we haven't seen the last 2 hours. Like the old man she made get hit by a racing car. She puts this man and just walks him into traffic and he just slammed, and you never find out what happened. Spider-Man just swings away. It's just like, she is a killer. You're right. She's a terrorist. She throws MJ off the building not knowing whether she'll actually survive, and even she makes sure that MJ is like awake before she hits the ground, so she's even more traumatized. So it would have been good. Like, this movie did consequences really well. So Peter Parker makes this ultimate sacrifice, and he has to live with the consequences, and it doesn't gloss over those consequences. But with her, you're right that they did. They just sort of, okay, she was looking for her sister. Fair enough then, right? And I don't mind a villain who's sort of rough around the edges, like Punisher was that in this film too. So I wouldn't have minded if Jean Grey was a dark character who was trying to do something. You only understood why she was doing what she was doing, but she still would. The idea that she still would have to face, some ramifications for that, and it felt to me like it was just a MCU move. Like, okay, we want to introduce the X-Men into this, and so let's do that. And even with the inclusion of Hulk, was such a good. His fight sequences were amazing. Big beefy Hulk was so cool. But in terms of the plot, it was a bit more of a plot device. Like, I'm using this thing on my arm to suppress my thing, and now he'll use that. So it just felt like there was a couple of beats in the movie that, for me, just felt like some bits they did so beautifully and seamlessly and well, and then there's other bits that it just felt like a bit like chess moves, that they were doing this deliberately to set up something for later films.
Yeah, setting up the X-Men storyline where they're trying to suppress everybody's.
The Avengers Doomsday coming out and that having the X-Men in it and that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
But Savage Hulk was awesome. Like,
it was.
Give us Savage Hulk.
To see Hulk back. Yeah, that's right. And they could have played on that more. They could have played on him representing what Spider-Man could become. like the unleashed violent monster, they could have played with that, right? But they just made it a really cool thing, which was fine. But
It was cool.
Yeah.
And also the thing you mentioned, I saw you put up online a couple of days ago, was the fallen scenes. Like that scene where she's like switching between people and walking
So
around
good.
him, exactly like the Azazel demon in The
Yep.
Fallen, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And to this day, it is the second best movie for explaining a Christian way to take on a spiritual force. It's the second best. The best one, in my opinion, is Devil, which was written by M. Night Shyamalan, but made by someone else. Have you seen that one?
Yep, I have.
Yes.
Yep.
That
One
one,
in the
that one,
elevator?
yeah. That one is
Yeah,
I think Fallen's the better movie, but that one just gets the importance of the gospel through so explicitly at the end of that movie. I won't give it away how he defeats the evil one at the end, but the way, like when you mentioned that online, I was a little bit like, oh, I wonder how they did that. And then I saw actually how much it's like that they just recreated that scene where he's on the street in Fallen.
Yeah, totally.
And they just, I was like, wow, this actually is like Fallen. Like Simon was not exaggerating.
Where in Fallen, they have to tap. They have to tap, like they've knocked their shoulders, and then it plays on, and they have the song "Time Is," and that was a beautiful little visual, cue for you that the demon had possessed someone else and was moving. And this way, they did a sound effect and they did a movement, but it felt very theatrical. Like I come from a theater background, so it felt very sort of theatrical, and I thought it was just a visual. It was just really simple, in a universe that can use billions of dollars worth of special effects. For them to use just a very physical way of communicating something, I thought they did really well. It was a good choice.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was done very well. And the one thing they should have locked her up at the end. Even if it was like
even if she got away, like even if they lock her up and then she breaks out at the end and then she's running
in a post-credit
like
scene, but
not
you see she's in a cell, wheelchair rolls up. That's how they should have ended it. Right? But like, so that's just a minor thing. Like at the end of the day, it is a Spider-Man movie. It's not meant to. It's not gonna it's a good movie. It doesn't get everything perfectly right, and the way that he defeats her, which we've already spoiled enough, but maybe we'll let people watch how he defeats her. It's actually quite a beautiful, touching scene. That one. So, and just to finish up, where would you rank this in your ranking of Spider-Man movies, Simon?
Well, the other drawback I'd say is how many other Marvel properties you need to see to be able to understand various elements of this film. Like my wife was going, so who's Black? Why is that Black Widow? Who is that lady? And who's this one and that? So it's getting almost to the point of ridiculousness. Like I wanted potential. I was thinking about going to see this with my 10-year-old. I'm glad I didn't for a couple of reasons, but I was thinking, I wonder what other movies. And now that I saw him, like she would be so lost having not seen anything other than the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Like she's seen no Marvel movies at all, right? So it's hard to place them in a ranking of because that's sort of isolating them from the others. So the thing that makes it good is how it's continuing. But yeah, it's definitely really, really well made, and how it ends. I just said it was as silly as this sounds, it's a really grounded film, and you saw that mostly when in the end credits. Spider-Man movies traditionally have end credits that are like graphics of spider webs and the the Tom Holland, and all that sort of like do, right? This showed still scenes, like stock footage of different scenes in New York of just people.
I like that.
It was beautiful, right? So I think this was a very sophisticated film for a Spider-Man film. So I'd definitely say it's one of the best Spider-Man films, but from in ways that people probably wouldn't initially think. Like when you think, what's the best Spider-Man film? You're probably thinking, what's the best action sequences and that sort of stuff. Whereas this is actually probably one of the most deep ones. And I agree. When I saw Spider-Man 2 all those years ago, I was trying to balance my own life. And I remember going, this movie's all about balancing superhero and real world life, and what a struggle that is. And I thought they did that really well. So I think when superhero movies actually don't just entertain but talk about human experiences, I think that's what makes them really good. So yeah, I can't necessarily rank it, but I definitely say it's definitely one of the best ones.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said, except I will rank it. I think it's my second favorite Spider-Man movie, but I would fairly accept your caveat. There is a bit of homework you need to do, and probably because I watched every Marvel movie up to Endgame, and the only ones I've watched since then are the Spider-Man ones. I checked out of all the rest.
Yeah, same.
I've
seen a few of the TV series. I've seen some of them, the series, through Disney Plus and stuff. But yeah, the movies I just haven't been interested.
No, well, they ended the story.
Thunderbolts is really good. I've heard Thunderbolts is good, so I want to check that one out.
I'm thinking about watching it now. I might even watch some of the reviewers I like said Fantastic Four is good.
Yeah, but, that's really good. Really good. I did to see that actually. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's just a family story. And that's what you just said. And I think it's a good place to kind of wrap up the discussion here is when you get it down to real life characters, real life situations, and just showing how extraordinary people go through the same sort of stuff that we do, then you're going to get people hooked. And somebody said, I put up a couple of posts about Spider-Man, and one of my mates said, well, why are they making another Spider-Man movie? And it's just really simple. Compelling characters draw people in. And I meant to say this before, but the whole, what they did with MJ and Spider-Man in this was both good storytelling for the story, but it was also clever serial storyline. And it's the sort of thing they do in like a 7-season TV show where they painfully drag out the fulfillment of the relationship for another couple of episodes, which makes you be frustrated, but actually more interested in watching it. And I figured it's very clear they're setting up for at least a new trilogy. And if they're going to do that, they've done it really well. And I think the flaws in this movie are overshadowed. And look, it is just a superhero movie. Somebody's watching it. Well, it's just a superhero movie. Yeah, but we just want to watch fun stories sometimes. Sometimes you want the powerful drama, but to be able to bring a bit of that drama into a movie which has the Hulk falling out of a building with half the side of the building hanging off his shoulders is just really cool. Sometimes guys want that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not a film to watch on your phone. Get out if you can. Get out, see it in a big cinema. And I actually saw it at a cinema called VMAX. So throughout the whole movie, when they're talking about what is VMAX, what is VMAX, and I'm like, well, we're here. This is what VMAX is, right? Yeah, definitely. If you can, go see it, or if you wait till streaming or something like that, see it at your friend's house. It's got a nice big screen and a good sound system. It's a good laugh. It's a good show. Yeah. Yeah,
awesome. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Just check out Simon Camilleri's books. Can they look them up on Amazon under your name?
You can, yep, or go to 10 of those, or kidsguidebooks.com is my website where I talk about those books and stuff. So, yeah.
All right, check that out. And remember, I actually knocked my book off before. I have my other book here, Defending Conscience, which you can pick up on Amazon or Lock Press. My current book, Like a Roaring Lion. And I just sent a new book to my publisher on the weekend, so keep an eye out for that at Lock Press and on Amazon. Thank you for watching along tonight. Please share this with other people. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Catch you later.
See you.